So in yesterday's game between the Heat and the Clippers, there was a lot of storylines. There was the big game from Bam. There was the timely night from Jimmy in terms of coming back and hitting shots down the stretch. Uh, but I want to talk about the two-man game in general between the both of them. Like we've had this conversation before. Uh, them leading the way is always kind of the blueprint, but when can they do it together in the same action? That's always the question because teams will just go under and it kind of leads to nothing constantly. So there's one dynamic that I kind of caught that seems like a pretty interesting trend to keep an eye on with this two-man game. And there's something that's I've been keeping track of over the last few games. That's a dynamic that they could, I guess, add on in a different way. So I'm going to start with the first one. And here's a possession in the third quarter. Jimmy Butler-Bam Adebayo pick and roll, something we saw a ton of last night. Like I said, you're going to see Marcus Morris go over. He's going to feed it to Bam in the pocket. It's a contested floater in the middle of the lane. And the reason I show this is because you're going to watch, as I go back, you're going to watch Bam Adebayo as a screener. You're going to see him basically set the screen right here, immediately kind of slip it and roam into the middle of the lane. He gets that shot. The reason I point that out is let's watch the next possession. You're going to see Jimmy come off a little handoff right here, and they're going to turn into a pick and roll. What's going to happen is it's going to be something similar with Paul George going over on Jimmy. But the difference is just watch the length of Bam screening here. He's still screening. He holds the screen in terms of getting that opening. And what that opens up as I go back a little bit more, Jimmy now can go one-on-one with Zubac and freeze him right here, pull him up, and now Bam has an open lane to the basket. Now if I go back again, because I'm going to showcase this again, back to the first possession that I showed, it's a big difference because right here he slips it, and now they're basically playing 2-on-2 instead of 2-on-1. And that's the dynamic that Hero and Bam have figured out because Bam can blitz off a pick and roll or off a screen with Hero in the pick and roll, or same thing with Lowry. But he can't really do that with Jimmy. And I think they're kind of figuring out what is the need here between them right here as he blitzes off of this and holds it a little bit more and gets the dunk. So that's the first dynamic between their actual two-man game. The second dynamic is with one of them in the action and one of them not. It's something I've mentioned on Twitter a few times. But what they're doing a lot of is using Jimmy as like a dunker spot drifter, where he's so reactionary, where he can make like instinctive decisions at a high level that they want him in this spot. So what you're going to see right here is it's an insert to Tyler, quick pick and roll, the Tyler Bam pick and roll, something we talk about a ton, but you're going to watch Jimmy clear out to the dunker spot. Paul George is kind of motioning to Reggie Jackson to kind of watch Drew Smith in that wing. So now Tyler and Bam can force that 2-on-1 that I was just talking about. What you're going to watch from Jimmy here is he always just watches his defender. He's always watching the eyes of his defender. As Paul George is worrying about him pointing out Reggie Jackson where to go, Jimmy's already cutting baseline, and he's already out. He has a wide open lay-in right there off that baseline off a dish from Bam. I go back to the Memphis game. This was the opening possession of the second half in Memphis. There was not a lot of good things in this Memphis game, but this was one of them that I kept track of. Opening possession. This is not a pick and roll. You're going to see Jimmy right here at the bottom of your screen. He's setting a pin down for Tyler. Bam's clearing out to the left side. So you're going to see Jimmy set this pin down for Tyler. Kyle Lowry's setting a back screen for Jimmy. The whole reason Bam is drifting left here, looking like he's trying to find like an isolation or inverted pick and roll, is just to set up this Jimmy baseline back screen. So right here, he sets it up, gets it inside to Jimmy, quick baseline fade, he knocks it down. We're just constantly seeing different variations of it. Now, let's go back to the game before that, or two before that. This is the game in Boston, the final game in Boston. 106-105, late in the game. They need a bucket. This was kind of the crunch time possession. You're going to see Bam back out into a Lowry Bam pick and roll. So we've seen the dynamic of the Jimmy Bam. We've seen the dynamic of the Tyler Bam within it. And now we're seeing the Lowry Bam within it. So now you're going to see Lowry Bam pick and roll. Eventually, it's coming. They get into it now. Kyle's going to reject the screen and then fly right back into it. They're going to go under. So it's more of a 2-on-2, even though I was saying before that it's better when they can force 2-on-1s. It's a 2-on-2 here. But you're going to watch Jimmy here. Jimmy here is the whole point of this because you're going to watch Jimmy watch Grant Williams. He falls asleep, drifts baseline, quick baseline fade to the other side. It's just we're seeing different variations of it, and this is the way to maximize the two of them. There's the dynamic of finding the right, I guess, screen to your ball handling speed when they're both in the action, but now they're finding ways to utilize both of them without them getting in each other's way in that mid-post hub. They're finding ways to hit Bam as a roller and maximize Jimmy as a mover. So these little tiny minor X and O's increments is pretty intriguing, I guess, that when you're talking about the top heavy half of this Heat roster.